Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Open Here with myself, Enby. Thank you for going back to watch the videos. It's always good to get people coming back to watch and learn about gender identities, sexuality in general, and to answer your questions that have been sent in to me. So, as usual, we have 3 questions that have been sent in by the viewers, and this week the questions are around. So question 1 is, it's a phase, youths changing the labels all the time. Question 2 is, how do you respond to overt and covert discrimination? And then question 3, spaces for women and non-binary feels aimed at people who are assigned female at birth and cis women. So those are the questions that have been sent in, the topics to discuss, and we'll go through those, and then at the end you're obviously able to leave your comments in the comment section or reach out on social media to discuss any further, and of course you're able to send in your own questions in for future videos. So let's start on question 1. It's a phase, the youth's changing labels all the time. Now this was sent to me by a woman who has a non-binary child, and some of the accusations that the child is getting is that it's a phase because they are changing their labels. Now put yourself in a kid's shoes, in your teenage years. How certain were you about what you wanted to do in life? How certain were you about what you wanted to study? About what direction your life wanted? Those things were up in the air as a teenager. Never mind your gender identity. So gender identity, as I've mentioned in previous videos, can be fluid for people. It can change over time. As a teenager, I can't even imagine going through gender identity issues as a teenager on top of everything else you have going on. So, I mean, first of all, I think these teenagers who are coming out are extremely brave, and I take my hat off to them. I think they're brilliant and they're the future. So, is it a phase? Obviously not. It's not a phase. Some may experiment with their gender identity and they may decide, well, actually, I am what I am what I was assigned at birth, and that's fine. It doesn't mean it was a phase. It means they're working out who they are. That's not a phase. Other ones, they may come out as non-binary, as gender fluid. They may say, well, actually, I'm not who I was assigned at birth. I don't feel like a boy. I don't feel like a girl. I'm X, Y, Z. And that might change, and that's fine as well. That doesn't mean it's a phase. They may change to being a trans person. And again, that's fine. Like I say, it's not a phase. It's all about experimenting and finding out who they are. It doesn't make them any less valid. It doesn't make what they're going through any less of a struggle. And what we should do is we should be supporting these kids as much as possible through their journey to work out who they are. As I say, your teenage years is where you're finding out who you are in general anyway. If you're a cisgender straight person, imagine having that on top of that, having gender identity struggles and issues and finding out who you are. I don't think many of us can put ourselves in that situation and understand the hardship they're going through. So let's support our kids and understand that they can take as long as they want. They can try as many different labels as they want to work out who they are. And it doesn't mean it's a phase. It means they're doing the work themselves and working out who they are. And we should support that as much as possible. So I hope that answers that question. Question 2 was to do with, how do you respond to overt and covert discrimination? And this is a bit of a tricky one, because obviously covert discrimination, we don't know what's really going on. We don't have proof of it. We may have hunches, we may have feelings that we're being discriminated against, but it's one of those things that's really hard to pinpoint. So I'll tackle that one first. I mean, with covert discrimination, it's something that we ourselves wouldn't be 100% guaranteed aware of it's happening. And this is where we would call on our allies, the cis allies, and anyone else who may be around. If you hear discrimination going on against non-binary or trans people, you need to call that out. If you call yourself an ally, you need to stand up for us. And if this is in a workplace or school or any kind of social setting, if someone says something which doesn't feel right, which doesn't sit right, which is discriminatory against trans and non-binary people, call it out. Stand up and tell them it's not right. The more people that do that, and the more people who support us without us realising, the less discrimination will be happening, especially on a covert basis, where we may not be aware it's happening behind our backs. With overt discrimination, so stuff that we see, for example, if people talk down to us, if people refuse to use the correct pronouns for us, if people tell us that we're not welcome in certain areas, we can do as much as we can ourselves to try and challenge it, but we can also, if we are receiving harassment or any kind of abuse, encourage people to report it to the police. Any kind of, even if it's just words do hurt, words have meaning. Report those to the police as discrimination and make it aware that these things are happening. And stay strong. It's extremely hard. It really is to suffer through the abuse we get and the discrimination we get. But you are being you, and is it worth the discrimination and the abuse? Hell yes, no matter how much we get. But people do commit suicide, people do commit self-harm because of the discrimination and the abuse we get. So let's, all of us, try harder to stand up and stop this kind of thing happening. You wouldn't let casual racism slide, so why let casual transphobia slide? So let's make sure we call full stop on this and work together to stop it. And then finally, the last topic I was sent, someone mentioned that they do see spaces for women and non-binary people, but they really feel that those are aimed at cis women and people who are assigned female at birth. So they feel that these kind of things exclude trans women and people like myself who are non-binary and assigned male at birth. So I do feel that can be a thing, without a doubt. There can be places aimed at saying to welcome women and non-binary people, but they wouldn't expect someone like myself to turn up, or they wouldn't expect a trans woman to turn up. And what can we do to stop that? What can we do to make places more welcome for everyone under those umbrellas? And if they're organisations, if they're places where, support groups and things, maybe we can work into getting on board of those organisations, become members, become part of the board, and work from the inside to make these more progressive. That's one route, work from the inside to make them more open and more able to welcome with open arms people like myself and trans people, and make it feel like these areas aren't exclusive and make them much more inclusive. The other option is if these kind of things are really kind of set in the way and it's not comfortable for trans people or non-binary people like myself to go to those areas, is there anything stopping us setting new ones up ourselves? Yes, it takes time and it takes effort, but if you have the capacity to launch new initiatives, to include people like myself, let's do that. If I live in Bournemouth, and if anyone is having issues where they're feeling excluded from spaces which say they include us, reach out to me and let's see what we can do to improve the area and to improve that for people like ourselves. It's difficult. Obviously, the wording makes it feel like people will be accepted, and it is all down to personal perception when you go to those events and everything else. So try them out. See how you feel when you go to them, and if you get stared at, if you don't feel safe, if you hear snide remarks, let's make the change, let's do something about it. So I can only really help in the Bournemouth, Dorset area, but yeah, let's start new events, let's start new organisations up, let's start new support groups for people who need the help, who feel like they're being excluded, because there's no reason people like us should be excluded. We're no different than anyone else, this is just us. We're not a danger, we're not a threat. So yeah, let's hopefully 2022 will be a year where people like myself will be more included. But if not, let's make space for ourselves and do it. So that's the 3 topics of conversation for this week. Really what I want from you is to send in your questions, send in your comments, anything where you feel that you want discussing regarding gender identities or sexuality or queerness in general. Reach out to me on the comment section or on my social media, and let's get talking and let's see what we can do for next episodes. Please make sure you like, share and subscribe to these videos as well. And the more people that see them, the more we can raise awareness of the issues we face and tackle discrimination and make everything much more inclusive. So thank you again for watching this episode. Come back for the next few ones and stay safe, stay friendly. I shall catch you next time. Take care of yourself.